The last thing to do is allow natural consequences. So for instance, if your father's drunk and wants a ride home from a friend's house, tell him no. If your son loses his cell phone while partying, don't replace it. If your mother tries to hold court while drunk at a family gathering, leave. The best way to know what the natural consequence to someone's behavior would be is asking yourself the question, how would the larger environment treat my loved one if I didn't step in? No one else would go get my father. He'd simply have to spend the night at his friends. What stranger would sit tight while my mother took over a social gathering? What if I didn't clean up after her, or nurse him when he's sick with a hangover, or try to cheer her up when she felt ashamed of herself? Would she go homeless if I didn't step in? Would he lose his job? Would he be arrested? Might he go to jail? Would she drive drunk? Let's address one of these, the question of homelessness. It's the age-old question, right? Do I throw my loved one out of the house? The families I have worked with have been about evenly divided between those who think it's worse to have someone you love using under your roof and those who can't stand not knowing what's going on with their loved one because they don't live with them. Either way, it's extraordinarily difficult. And yes, it's a common natural consequence to lose your housing when you ignore your responsibilities and spend all your money on alcohol or drugs. As you work your way through this program, I suggest you not make any change. If they're living with you, continue to let them. If they're not at home, don't ask them back. This doesn't mean you don't lock the door on them overnight when they've been using. We are avoiding broad brushstrokes here and focusing instead on the daily interactions between you and your loved one and what you can do at that very moment. Focus instead on these smaller communication and behavioral changes that we've been discussing. If living in your home is inadvertently supporting their use or coming back to live at home is a potential reward for non-use, consider using it as leverage in your request to go to treatment, a conversation we suggest you have towards the end of this program and which gets covered in Module 8. It could sound something like, I am part of the problem if I let you stay while you continue to use. I feel like I'm supporting your use and I can't do it anymore. I therefore need to ask you to leave. Here's a list of treatment options and shelters where you can go. I love having you here and want you to come back when you can commit to stopping the use. I want you to distinguish between dangerous natural consequences and those that are simply very difficult for you to accept. If a natural consequence is dangerous to you or your loved one, then you must step in if it is safe for you to do so. So I worked with parents whose son drank in the local pub in town. When their son didn't come home one evening, the father went to the pub and asked his son to come home with him. The son said no. The father left, went into the parking lot, pulled out a duplicate key he had to his son's truck and drove it to a side street near their home. The son came home ripping mad that his truck had been stolen. The father told his son to calm down, that they would deal with it in the morning. The son refused and he called the police. When the police came, the father told them what had happened. The police tried to talk to the son, but he was belligerent. Finally, the police had to arrest the son and he spent the night in jail. This is one example of stepping in when the situation is dangerous. Left to his own devices, the son would have driven drunk. You may also need to step in if the consequence affects you very negatively. So, for instance, if you can't afford to have your husband lose his job, then make that call to his employer and come up with an excuse when he's too hungover to go to work. If there's any possible amount of danger or huge negative cost to you due to what your loved one is doing, while high or withdrawing, step in and relieve the situation. Call the police or an ambulance, get professionals involved, and yes, even make that excuse to the employer. If the situation is truly not dangerous, try hard to stay out of it. Sure, someone or something else can step in and save the day, but it won't be you. Can you allow them to get arrested? Can you keep from hiring an attorney to get your loved one out of trouble? By doing so, you will have done what you can do to send a clear message that you're doing battle with the substance use, and you will not be making any attempt to help fix it.